Starbucks. Hi, welcome to this episode of Dyslexia Solutions. I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron. Today I have a very special guest. Many of you know me as the reading specialist, and especially with dyslexic kids, but my second love has been math. Before I left the public school system in 2018, I was a math teacher for 3.5 strong years to 4 years. And that was one reason I left public schools, because I knew the Lord had called me to teach reading. But even though I love math, so I've been asking God to send me a math partner so I could help kids with reading and with math. And I met Chris Morris on a Monday night Raising Expectation program. Many of you have seen Raising Expectations, which is on my website. And I've spoken a lot on dyslexia, but I want you to meet a man who's been in education 14 years. He's got 2 young girls, and he did something very fabulous, giving kids some awards that would motivate them to stay engaged. Now, imagine this for high school, and that's all I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to bring Chris to the stage. Welcome, Chris Morris.
Hey, Marianne, thank you so much for having me on.
There he is.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me on so much.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to meet you face to face, and we've had a couple chats already. And at the end of this interview, Chris is going to share some of his PowerPoints and talk to you about some of the math events that he has. And we're going to keep you in suspense until then, because I really want him to share his testimony about how he reached high school kids and got them engaged in math. So
Awesome.
Go ahead and share as you can on your heart.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. We have a lot of the same things in common, our heart towards kids and what God's done as far as just growing that. And I just always ask myself, at this point, what's the loving thing to do? That's kind of like my pillar on decision making. And so people are the priority, students are the priority. And to me, if I start thinking, what's the loving thing to do, it helps me drive my decisions in an effective way that reaches kids where they are. I'm going to say it the way they need to hear it. I'm going to not be thinking about myself, which is my biggest problem, and start getting my mind on the kid more, which is the biggest change that has happened to me through doing something as simple as awards. Now what in the world are these awards that she's referring to?
Look behind me. We all love awards, right?
Yeah, we all got awards, and those are really great and accomplished looking awards, and they're highly decorated. I think I have an award. Actually, that might just be a degree over there. I don't know.
There you go.
But no, so a little bit of my background, you're right. I had about 14 years. I've been in some way being a math teacher in some capacity, whether tutoring, teaching, working with homeschool families, working in public school. The story I'm about to share was when I was working in public school, though. Okay. So when I got started, it was a very unconventional thing. I had this unique program that was afforded to me for people who wanted to get into teaching in our area. And I had a background helping kids in algebra. So I had gone through this training, and they assigned me a public school in our area that I had to work in, right? I didn't get a choice. So it was a very unique situation. I got put into this situation of a school that is probably, in fact, it's still considered the most diverse school in our area. And when I say diverse, I mean, ethnically, socioeconomically, it was diverse. It was diverse in so many ways. At the time, it was probably about 48% white, Caucasian, maybe 30-something% African-American, and then Latino made up the rest of it mostly. Now it's probably evened out a little bit more to where it's like a third. And so it's very interesting, unique. I mean, we were friends. Kids were friends with everybody. Kids dated everybody. I mean, it was a very unique little ecosystem in and of itself, but they did have one thing in common for the most part, and that it was very, very high poverty, right? It was very high poverty. I would say, 75+% were considered below the poverty line. So free and reduced lunch, they were eligible for that. And, we had a lot of kids that came from either single parent situations, but unfortunately, as I stayed in about 3 years or so, I started understanding the kids better. Sometimes there were no families. We had plenty of kids who were staying at a friend's house for weeks on end, and they lie on their paperwork saying I live at this address, and then eventually you find out several people are claiming the same address, or you might have Hispanic communities where they all kinds of crazy situations where they're claiming that someone's a dad or an uncle and it's not. very different, right? And so a little bit about me and my background. I did not come from that background. Some people have stereotypes when they think of African American, typical American experience. But I was a pretty blessed American kid. My dad was a physician. I had tried to get good grades. I had 2-parent households. We went to church on Sundays. I mean, that was kind of my experience. I had a very sheltered experience compared to those who I was working with when I went to public schools. So anyway, 3 years in, I was not in a good place. I was getting very discouraged. The kids weren't responding well. They didn't seem like they ever turned in their work. They would not do their grades. They looked at doing their homework as a favor to me that I don't get fired. They'd be like, oh, you want us to turn that in by Friday? Okay, that's cute. What are you going to do for us? Because we're not going to do it. Then we'll tell the principal you're doing a bad job and you're going to get fired and we'll get a new teacher. We don't really care about our lives. So what are you going to do for me? I mean,
terrible.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, what? Don't you want to get into a good college? You get a good job? And no, it took me a long time to figure out that that's where they were coming from, right? And so I was in a bad place. The combination of the kids being apathetic, not doing anything I told them to do, with the combination, you probably know this a little bit, Marianne, of the politics that really drive a lot of stuff in school settings, especially public school. And what they were telling me to do drove me crazy. For example, they told us we could only teach for 15 minutes in an hour and a half long class, directly explain information. I could only do it for 15 minutes. The rest of the hour and 15 minutes, I had to put kids in groups and they had to explore some big problem and hope they figured out the equation that we've known, by the way, for 100 years. No, probably like thousands of years. And the kids had to organically figure out the algebra. And I'm like, that makes no sense. No. They don't have their multiplication.
You're talking about algebra, high school.
You're talking about algebra.
Okay.
And so that would be how they tell them to teach. Is this new math thing, and it would just drive me crazy. So obviously, if you care about the kids, you're going to ignore that rule. And you're going to at least teach for 40 minutes, because they don't know anything. They need someone to explain it to them. Yeah. The kids didn't understand why I would only teach for 15 minutes. They're like, you're the teacher, teach. I remember this one kid saying it like that. You're the teacher, teach. He got angry. But if my principal came in and he observed my class, which happens, you get observed by your principal, then I would get in trouble. And they would knock me down as not being on board, right? It's crazy. And I always told people who get mad at teachers because their test scores aren't great, I'm like, listen, the way they test math, it's the equivalent of asking me to measure the weight of an elephant with a ruler.
Because there's so many things included in that, right?
I mean, for example, a ruler is the wrong tool
for
measuring the weight of something. Let's just talk about that. That's for how long something is. But they'll hand me a ruler and say, measure and tell me how much that elephant weighs. The standardized tests they give me are all about how many. It's a rat race. How many standards did you cover, and did they learn the 350 topics they had to learn that year? But they would force us to only teach for 15 minutes, and we might cover 15 topics instead of 300 topics because of the way they're making me teach. And then they're telling me, I'm a bad math teacher because I didn't teach 333 topics. I'm like,
you're pointing out exactly why I didn't add math to reading. I'm like, math is wonderful when you know how to teach it, but it's pretty involved. It's intense.
Involved. There's a lot of instruction that needs to happen. There's a lot of leadership that needs to happen. And then once they get the tools, then sure, they can creatively, critically think. That's great, but they got to get the tools first. Yeah. So I had a fundamental problem with what I was being told to do, and it's just insane. So anyway, going to the awards, because I guess I'm taking too long. Finally, God kind of humbled me and told me that, believe it or not, Chris, you're the problem. I'm like, how am I the problem? It's the kid's problem. It's the adult's problem. It can't be me, right? No, it's you. You're being lazy. You're getting discouraged. You're not being creative enough. You're not trying to really make it alive for the kids. So I had to repent. And so I thought, I'm going to repent for 2 weeks by doing an hour and a half of lesson planning for every lesson I teach for 2 weeks. I like challenges. I told y'all that on the radio show I think I was on. I like the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Give me your 5 loaves and 2 fish, and then something can change. And so I did that. While the 2 weeks were going on, I had the best, weird, silly idea, I thought, of all time. It changed everything for me. And it was, let me do the Academy Awards in a math class. Let me do the Academy Awards in the math class. So what are you going to call it? Academy Awards in math class? Yeah. I said, people like to win. The rest of us like to look and see who won. It gets everyone's attention. It might motivate them, So we called it the Math Morrisey Awards. My name's Mr. Morris. People knew me by that. So I thought the Morriseys could be kind of fun. Alliteration, the Math Morrisey Awards. Had no idea what I was doing. Walked into class on a Monday. Didn't know what the award was going to look like. Didn't know if it was a certificate or a trophy or a ribbon.
That
I
is
said, I figured
faith,
that out
and
later.
that's what I love.
Yeah.
Stepped out in faith.
God used my put the cart before the horse personality to somehow work something out, right? So I
Yeah.
walk in there, I shared this. I had about 25 to 30 kids, juniors and seniors in high school. We're talking 17 years old. Okay. You wouldn't think they'd like what I was about to talk about. But after I waited for that lull, right? Everyone knows what a lull is, right?
Yeah.
So once that lull hit, I started blaring Academy Award music using YouTube streaming in a subwoofer in my room. Boom, boom, boom. And when it started happening, I said, okay, from now on, every Monday, we're doing what I'm dubbing the Math Morrisey Awards. You know, that was how I said it, the music player. And the kids are like, what? The what? This is different. I said, the Math Morrisey Awards. I said, Morriseys have nothing to do with math. Now they're really excited, right? Nothing to do with math awards. You got our attention for the first time in 8 months, you know? And so I was like, hey, I said, Morriseys are about your character. And then I went through the room. I said, Johnny, you know how you like to take the usual 5 naps a day, every single day of the week? He goes, yeah, that's me. I get some good sleeping. I said, good, I know. I said, if you can just take 2 naps instead of your usual 5, you might win a Morrisey Award. We'll call it the Stay Awake Morrisey Award. I put a picture of an alarm clock on it. It was actually kind of funny. And then brought in coffee for him. I said, I might even bring in coffee. You know, I like to stop at the gas station and get my morning cup of Joe. I'll bring you in a cup. We'll get some creamer. We'll split. We'll have some math cafe. He goes, oh my gosh, I won a Morrisey. I said, great. Let's try that. I said, hey, Brenda, you know how you haven't turned in your assignment in about 3-4 weeks? She goes, yeah. I said, if you can turn in like half of the assignment and I'll give you 1 more week to even do it, you'll win a Morrisey Award. She goes, oh my gosh, let's do it. And so as I said before to you in our earlier conversations, I said it was literally like watching the kids take me slapping them on the face, but they liked it. You know, I went through the whole room and I told them exactly what they did that ticked me off as a teacher and what I wanted them to do to change it. And they all said, yes, let's do it. You win. I want to change. No fighting me on it, which in itself was a miracle.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, fast forward a little quicker, I was blown away. I told you I got stopped by kids in the hallway all week long. Tap, tap, tap. Mr. Morris. I'm like, yeah, why are you talking to me? It's not math class. This is weird. You know, I really want a Morrisey. What do I have to do to get a Morrisey? I'm like, oh my good. I still don't know what a Morrisey is. You know, I got to figure out what this is. They just know it's coming. You better figure it out, kid. It's like being a teacher. Sometimes it feels like you better figure out what you're going to do. 3rd block's coming. But anyway, about 7 kids in one day all tap me separately out of class asking what they can do to change and make my life easier and make their future brighter for this award that they don't know what it is, but they want, you know? So I'm really motivated now. So I told you guys this on the program. I didn't have much to work with. I had a laptop computer and I had Microsoft Word. And I went on Microsoft, I changed the font to Algerian, and I typed in big font, Math Morrisey Award goes to, and I would make it personal. I think that's the key. You need to tell kids something that they can do to change, something that's doable for them.
Yes.
Give them a time limit for it. All 3 of those things are important. I want to see if you can go 1 math class without cussing me out.
Yes.
If he can't do it, say, can you at least go 30 minutes before you cuss me out? You know, find out what he can do, make it doable for him where he's going to respond and go, you know what, that's hard. I'm going to have to actually really try to do that, but I know I can do it. If they don't think they can do it, you're dead. But give them something that you know they can do. That means you have to think about that kid. Think about your experiences with that kid. Has he ever demonstrated that he can say 3 sentences in a row without 5 F-bombs? You know, if he hasn't, adjust the challenge accordingly. But they will buy in if you start them that way. That's their 5 loaves and 2 fish, if you did the biblical analogy, right? So that's what I would do.
It's like the IEP goals, but of character.
Yeah, it's like the IEP goals. Yeah, you know what you want to do. But you just phrase it that way. And I like to tell people, you want to, everybody, I don't care how hard they are on the exterior, everybody wants to become a better version of themselves. That's the goal, a better version of themselves, not some standardized metric that everyone has to conform to, which is what we're doing right now in public education. But who are you? Oh, you're creative. You're an artist. Like, you should work on that and really become the best version of that. Set a vision before their eyes of the version of themselves that they would like to be. They'll run toward that. But that's not what we do in education yet. That's not what we do in education yet. We need to change it, right? And so I didn't know all this stuff when I was doing the awards. I just thought, this is hilarious. I got something they want. You know, God had to show me this somehow through me in my silly ways of doing things, right? But to my surprise, everybody was eating it up. By the time I went back into work on Monday, I had my printed out Word document in Algerian font of four people's Math Morrisey Award. I had one award per class so that every class could experience it. That's all I did.
One award.
And the winner of the Math Morrisey Award is Joe for actually only taking one nap last week. I thought he was going to do 2 naps because that was our deal, but he even took it up in a level and only took 1 nap. You win the Stay Awake Morrisey Award, you know, and I blared it up on the screen and I was playing music and the kids, and this is the trick. I use their selfishness against them. I told the kids, I said, if you can't clap, stand up and be happy for Joe when he wins, no one's going to stand up and clap and be happy when it's time for you to win. And so you need to celebrate this man. And then everyone's like, celebrating them like crazy, right? Because they're really doing it because they want to be celebrated, but who cares? We got to get them started. And so he feels awesome. He's like, all right. Next thing you know it, nobody cares about whether they win the award or not. They just like to see who won it, and they're getting excited for each other, cheering each other on. The whole climate's changing. Everyone's looking for the good instead of what's wrong with them.
I love that.
When you're focused on the good, you don't even see the bad. It's amazing. They can see the look on your eye and get excited. And what happened to me, Marianne, this is the part I didn't share on the radio show. I'm sharing with you now. And this is when I knew God was changing this man, because I was a selfish dude.
Mm-hmm.
When I really think about it, it's amazing. And God changed me. After 1 week or 2 of doing the awards every week and seeing the profound change, I had gangbangers stopping being crazy and doing their math work. Okay. I had suicide become addressed, which I did not see coming in a million years. I had a girl come up to me who just won an award. We called it the Precious Jewel Award. I couldn't think of anything. God must have given it to me. I said, I put a picture of a jewel. I said, look how precious it is. This is how I want you to see yourself. Because I knew she was struggling with some depression and stuff. Somebody told me that much. And I was trying to figure out something to encourage her. And that was something that I just felt like that worked well with like how women should see themselves. Like see yourself as a precious jewel. So I put that on there just randomly in the middle of class. You could see her eyes light up. Like, she came up, I handed it to her. We clapped. Everyone, you know, I'm not thinking that much about it. It took me 5 minutes to make the award. It wasn't hard to get clip art and put a jewel on there and put a little tagline on it. You know, it wasn't that hard at all. But the difference in the impact, words are life. And so I did that. I'm moving on with my life because I'm a creature of habit, right? Well, it's now my planning period. Teacher heaven. An hour by myself to just breathe, right? My planning period. And this girl who won the Jewel Award comes in and she just goes, how did you know to give me that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you didn't know? I go, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even remember giving the award. That's how bad it was. I was thinking about like, I want to eat this sandwich. I'd forgotten about, I'm such a dude. I'm just doing what I'm doing right now. And so eventually I'm like, oh yeah, you won an award. I wasn't even close to thinking about it. She goes, how did you know she goes, you didn't know? I got checked into the hospital last night because I overdosed on pills. I tried to commit suicide. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, you did? She goes, I was having suicidal thoughts about ending my life in class. And like, as soon as you gave me that award, it just took me out of it. She goes, thank you. And like hugged me. And I about wanted to cry. Because I'm not like overly like, you know, that's not really my personality that much, but like I could feel it. Like I was like, God, you're so good that you somehow use my goofy, wacky personality ideas to use something like as simple as a certificate to reach someone before they were about to go to the most negative of places on this earth, if that makes sense.
And you know what's interesting is there were probably other kids in that class that were doing some improvements that you would have considered giving the award to, but the Holy Spirit spoke to you that she needed it for such a time as this.
And so I didn't even know that, but God did. Yeah.
Yep. That's amazing.
Cut you off. I'm just like, yep. Because I was hemming and hawing. I could have been this guy. I'll pick her. I don't know. That just feels right. And I made it in 5 minutes. That's what amazes me, how quickly I could do this by the time I got a couple of weeks.
And it wasn't from anything she did differently, right?
I just felt like she needed it. It was one of these, I told the kids 90% of the time, it's something that you do to make an effort to change. But then once in a while, I just think you need to know this about you, you know?
Okay, good.
And so I said, you just need to try to please me. That'd be how I joke with them.
Just
But, try to please me. And then, it's not up to me. It's whatever happens, I would just be, joke like that. But anyway, like things like that were happening all the time. And then like, I'm a Christian, so I don't shove that on anyone's throat. But, as I felt like doing things God's way. That's the best way I know how to put it. You need to show people, God, instead of preach at them all the time. But as I started doing that, it just changed the culture, and people were more open, and people were celebrating each other, and it just felt fun. And when I was sitting down on a Friday, okay, at Starbucks, making these awards, because that's what I would do. Friday, I'm going to knock them out because I'm thinking about what happened this week. These are the awards I'm going to do on Monday, right? I remember Friday was like, oh, heaven day. I'm done with work. I don't have to go to this horrible place. I can check out for a couple of days. I'm at Starbucks writing the awards, and I'm like cracking myself up because I'm already thinking how funny this is going to be when I give it on Monday. And I heard myself say, I can't wait till Monday. I said it to myself. I'll talk to myself. I said, I can't wait till Monday, man. When he sees this, he's going to, and I went, oh, I can't wait till Monday. It's Friday. Who are you? It weirded me out. But I genuinely meant it. I couldn't wait to get back to work because I was so excited. I'm off to the races now. And now, like, I'm not thinking about me. I'm not thinking about woe is Chris and his problems. That's not even a thought. I'm always thinking about the kids. I would go through the roster and just be like, okay, what do I know about this kid? If I don't know enough about him, I'm going to ask his friend and he'll tell me. But I'm in the kingdom of God is the way I look at it.
Those are some good tips for you teachers and parents out there. He's giving you his strategy. So I hope you're listening.
I hope, and these are things I organically kind of was taught through taking steps of, faith, I guess, trying something new, trusting God with it. And it was amazing. Right. And so I'm just thinking about the crossover, right, between, a guy who's teaching math, which takes some character to do. It takes patience and discipline and grit. Right. But the crossover with like, you think about like special education or something like that, where you have kids facing all kinds of, trauma or some sort of other, mental, things that they're trying to contend with on top of it, and like how powerful, considering, those kinds of concepts can be. Words really are that powerful. And, I ran into a kid about 5 years after they were in my class at the grocery store. And he goes, Mr. Morris, I know I didn't remember the kid. Mr. Morris, I'm like, oh, did I teach you math? I really couldn't remember. But now I taught 3,000 more kids, And he goes, I just want you to know you were my favorite class I ever took. I still have my Morrisey Award. He's a 20-something-year-old man. He pulls it out of his wallet, unfolds it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's back when I was doing it on work. I started crying. I remember the award as soon as he showed it to me. But the fact that the dude, it meant enough to him to hold on to it for 5 years plus, he probably still has it.
That's amazing.
Because you made that, this is a coin. I call it a personal transaction of care. That's my term.
Okay.
It's my term. I call it a personal transaction of care. If you're working a job, I don't care if you're a boss, I don't care if you're a doctor with nurses under you, or whatever the situation is, you're around people. Somebody is. You're a mom with kids. You're with students for sure. If you're doing things and you don't have that personal transaction with each person that you run in contact to after you've been with them a long time, you're missing something. That's not love. You're just talking to the audience in show mode. You have to have that personal something where that person's like, that person cares for me. They noticed me. They took the time, and it means something to that kid. And you have that personal transaction of care with them. Oh, that's going to come back with interest. You can draw on that account later. They're going to run for you. And so that's something that the Lord taught me. Anyway, I'm talking too long, I'm sure. Did you have another question?
Would you share the story of that's wonderful. Share the story of I don't know if he was a gangbanger, but he actually wanted to teach one of your lessons.
Yes.
Or show the class how to do something. Algebra.
No problem. That was, there was a few things I was like, this is impactful. That was one of the most ones. So yeah, there's this kid, I always change his name. So I got to change his name. So we'll call him, I don't know. I'm going to call him Johnson. All right.
Yeah.
So there's this kid named Johnson who was particularly an interesting situation. Okay. Cause like you referenced, he was considered like a gangbanger, or at least an affiliate with like the was like the Crips, right? And
Mm.
so that was something we had to be aware of and talk about in our area, because that was a real issue facing the communities of the kids we work with, right? And so, you don't know much about that world. God bless. Some people have to worry about that. They go home and they have to duck their head. They don't know if a bullet's going to fly by. They don't know if there's a rival, retaliation, something going on. And so this kid was moving up in gang culture, and to the point where the principal knew things, and they would meet with the police department, and then they would meet with me as the teacher and tell me, hey, by the way, if he's doing this symbol, that's him communicating to this other guy that there could be a hit going on, like crazy stuff. I'm like, I'm trying to get them to solve a quadratic equation, and I gotta remember he's doing a gang symbol that could mean a shoot up on the weekend. Like, I can't multitask that well. I flat out told him. He's like, well, we're going to tell you any way to look for it. And if he's not allowed to wear blue, there's all kinds of stuff like that happening, right? Well, anyway, he's in my class. He's probably the smartest kid I've ever taught, or at least in the top 3 in reality. As far as I can process information, I can solve problems, I'm smart, and I have intelligence. He was up there. I knew it. But he would not play the school game. He would not do his homework assignments. He would take an F on the test, because that's not what he cared about. He cared about the affirmation he would get from his gang family, or whatever, however that works. Okay.
And I bet he was dyslexic, but go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so he's in that class, and I hadn't got him to do a thing all year. I mean, we're talking 7 months into the year, and I could not get him to play ball. His grade was in the tank. If you looked at paper, you'd think he's really low IQ, but I knew he wasn't. But what are you going to do? So he's in that class. The first week I unveiled the Morriseys. I didn't even make the Morrisey yet. I just pitched it. I told them about it. They were excited, but I didn't even know what a Morrisey was. It's Thursday, and the topic is inverse logarithmic functions. Inverse logarithmic functions, which as you know, is a little more difficult than a lot of the other things we talked about that year. It's actually such a specific type of subject that the lead math coach in our district admitted to me that she was very bad at them, and she couldn't give me any advice on how to teach the students.
Wow.
I had to teach her how to do that topic, and she was supposed to be my boss. It was a hilarious turn of events.
Amazing. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm already thinking this is going to be a rough day, because the kids already whine about doing simple stuff. They're definitely going to whine about logarithmics functions. And I am not looking forward to this, because I don't feel like dealing with them fussing all day, because it's not easy. If it's not perfectly easy, they whine, right? So I'm starting to talk about it. I'm like, hey, you have to do inverse operations to solve equations. Exponents don't have an inverse operation naturally, so you have to use logarithms. And they're already looking at me like, what language are you speaking? And are you done yet? And I'm done for the day. It's just not going well. No. Well, all of a sudden, Johnson, the gang banger, who never says anything, speaks up, and he goes, yo, it ain't that hard. Check it. And he steps up and he storms my way. And I'm already like, oh, hey, you're probably attacking me because you're tired of this math stuff. And I push you over the edge, And he just snatches my marker, he teaches with a little marker. He snatches my marker out of my hand. I thought he was going to punch me. He's a big dude. Like, I'm seriously like a little scared of him. He snatches it and he goes, not that hard. And he gets up on the board and he starts teaching logarithmic equations, inverse log. He is rolling. I mean, perfectly correct, explaining it with understanding, answering the kids' questions. It was amazing. I was just sitting there going, what is happening? Like, I'm pinching myself? Am I awake? Eventually I was like, I'm gonna go back to my desk and just see how long this thing rolls. He probably goes at least 20 minutes. I mean, it felt longer. I don't know. We'll say at least 20 minutes. He did a brilliant job, taught it better than I could. And because he kind of had a fiery, scary vibe, the kids were really listening to him.
That is so cool.
Better than even me, So I'm like, this is great. And so I don't know what's going on. I'm thinking a broken clock's right twice a day. I guess everybody has a good day. All right, let's let it roll. And then he finishes. No one has any questions. He hands me the marker back and goes, took care of it. And then he takes a seat. I go, oh, okay. All right. Well, then I walk up back to the front center stage and I go, well, does anyone have any questions? I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself if I wanted to. And after everyone just kind of like, finally I start picking up steam and I'm answering questions and it's starting to kind of feel more like normal class. Well, his hand's up in the back of the room about 10 minutes after that display. And I go, yes, Johnson, did you have a question? He goes, oh, I need to talk to you. Kind of got shivers down my spine, frankly, because it was one of those like intimidating ways of saying that he would do. He goes,
I see an acting career in your future. No.
Been told that a couple times, but I don't know. Can't sing. But anyway, so he goes, I need to talk to you. And I said, all right, that's fine. I said, my planning period's at 1 o'clock. You can come back, blah, blah, blah. He goes, no, you don't understand. I need to talk to you now. That's how we, now I'm like, oh God. So then I said, I'm a Christian, so I pray. Okay. So I'm just telling you how I am. I said, Lord Jesus, don't let him pull some crap. That's literally the prayer I prayed. I know it wasn't that holy, but that was my prayer. So I walked toward him slowly. I go, yeah. He goes, come closer. Now I'm like, Jesus, you better sense because I just don't trust him. So I lean forward. I'm like, he's going to deck me, isn't he? I lean real forward. Now I'm at his mercy, and I'm bracing myself. And he goes, look, I'm on a Morrisey, dog. What I got to do to get a Morrisey? And he like that. And I'm like, and then it starts flooding me what just happened, what he was doing all day, and what he just said. And it's starting to finally click. I'm a little slow, I guess. And I was like, oh my God. Like I did not see that coming. I mean, a smarter person probably saw it coming. I had no clue why he was doing what he was doing that day. It just hit me like a wave. And I remember going, oh my gosh, And so it was the fulfillment of what the Lord had already told me 2.5 weeks prior. I told you that when I was in a bad place and somebody confronted me saying, Chris, you can be the head, not the tail, above and not beneath. Why don't you come up with an idea? Stop just doing what the district says. Take the head, lead the charge. And I was like, you're full of it, lead the charge. Well, he kept pushing me, and the Lord spoke to me shortly after he was saying that because I didn't believe it. And he said, your skills will accomplish what the force of many cannot. Never forget the phrasing. Your skills will accomplish what the force of many cannot, which seemed like the absolute opposite of how I felt in reality was. I was like, I am the least influential person in this school at the time. But I believed him. And now I was already seeing it happen within 2 weeks, something like that. It was crazy.
Cool. Yeah.
And so there's the story about Johnson, and he turned around. He wasn't perfect, but he was doing some homework every week, and speaking up in class pretty consistently. And it just blew me away. So suicide, gang activity. I mean, what else did you want?
Well, that is amazing. And I think I'm going to address the audience again, that if there's teachers out there and you are a teacher because you've had these moments of aha, where your kids are getting it and you feel that you have a special, whether it's an anointing or a special call to do what you're doing. And that's what gives us the joy to continue working with kids because we want to help them. So if you have high school kids and you could see them really relating to Chris right now, what about if you have elementary and middle school kids that need help with multiplication? So I'm going to let this be a segue into what Chris can offer you, because he does a 7-day challenge to learn multiplication facts. And I love doing that because I know all these tricks to help kids learn multiplication. So Chris has a 7-day plan. He's got, what about money, financial money knowledge, how to use math with money. So he has a 10-week course for that. And then also he has algebra, how to make algebra simple in 10 weeks. So I'm going to have Chris go ahead and share some information he has. And you guys take your phones out, take some pictures, and get back to Chris. And he could even talk about his book. But this has been amazing. And I know the audience is really enjoying it because I certainly am.
Yeah, first off, I so appreciate you. You're the kindest person ever. And I just want to say that to you, and I appreciate your heart. Okay. And yes, thank you for bringing that up because, now I don't work in public education. There was a time God called me out and he wanted me to bring some of the ideas, some of the things, some of the ways of teaching mathematics to more people and to address kids. I feel like I'm on assignment sometimes, like I'm a special agent and I got to go get that kid and I got to rescue them from the situation they're in. And so now I actually own and operate my own, I'll bring it on screen. I own and operate my own education company where we call it Morris Model Education, Tutoring, Teaching, Transforming. And so you can find me at morrismodel.com. You can probably see it on screen right there, morrismodel.com. If you want to book a session just to talk with me, I can hear about your concerns, learn about you first and foremost, so I can start thinking about how best to meet your kids' needs if they have an area in math that they're struggling. But it's all mostly math centered. But like she said, I do have a financial tie, so I'm teaching a financial course. But you just hit book now, and you can find my schedule and reach out to me. But this is what she was saying as far as the Algebra Made Simple, right? So I have probably one of our more popular things that we offer is called Algebra Made Simple 10-week course. Algebra Made Simple 10-week course. And the way we do it is a little different than you may be used to in education, where we actually split it up, and each week we hit the most important topics of an algebra curriculum, and we do it topic at a time, 1 week at a time. And so we might cover percentages on 1 week. Well, you're going to get an hour conversation with me, kind of a teaching lesson, and we're going to make it interesting, talk about how it's built to make money and how you can actually use it to get wealthy, and hopefully give you some curiosity there. But then we have our YouTube channel where we have teaching videos that I'll send it to you about 5 days or 4 days after our lesson to reinforce what we talked about so you don't forget. It's only about 15 minutes. And we also do live videos. So there's ways that I can reach your kid through the cell phone and on computer, and maybe remind them in ways that makes them feel supported throughout the week, right? And so that's what we do. If you want to book a tutoring session, you can just click, book a tutoring session right there, and you can find my schedule, and we'll go ahead and get that set up. But going back to the, let me see if I can go back to where I was here. I lost my website. So going back to the website, if you go down a little bit lower, one of the things that she Marion brought up is our 7-day multiplication mastery challenge. That's a huge thing I'm excited about. I feel like the Lord was behind it, and we put it together recently, and we're unveiling right now. So if you click on Get It Now down here, you'll be brought to this page. And so for a limited time only to the first 50 participants, we're actually unveiling this for just $47. Not a week, not a day, a one-time payment. I mean, you're going to put more in your gas tank today than this. $47, you get the 7-day multiplication mastery challenge. And I'm a big believer in challenges. You just heard my story about how I would challenge the kid and put a time limit on it, right? Well, this fits what I'm saying. 7 days. Kids respond well to challenges. Give me 7 days, Johnny. I want to see if you can learn your multiplication. You can't do it, can you? Oh, yeah, I can. You don't think I can? Boys especially respond to that kind of talk. Challenge them. We can't help it. Oh, you think I can't? Let's go. Run it back. When we're playing sports, that's how we talk, and especially all kids. But I'm just telling you, the boys, I remember if you say that, I bet you can't do. Oh, the girls too. They respond well. And so it's 7 days. In 7 days, we're going to learn all 12 of the times tables, the multiplication facts, your 2s and your 3s, on one day, your 4s and your 5s the next day. We interact it. You get a daily video with an assignment just to watch the video that encourages them, shows them some websites they can use, but then also gives them a daily task that I challenge them to do. See if you can score this. We have some interactive games that go with it too. And it's mixed up to keep it fresh, but there's motivational content you're going to get so that the kids realize, hey, you got to sow to reap. And if you don't sow right now, you don't reap a better life later. And so you're going to get hopefully a little wisdom in addition to the practicality and the result of knowing your times tables. Listen, a lot of parents don't realize that their kids' problem in pre-algebra and geometry and whatever their middle and high school math courses, maybe they're failing or the grade isn't ideal. A lot of times they just don't know their multiplication facts as well as you think they do. Maybe they know their 6s and their 5s and their 7s, but the 9s. And so what happens is they can't reduce a fraction. Well, that's half of the credit your teacher is giving your kid. If they don't reduce the fraction on this equation, that's half off. That adds up to your score, right? Or they can't factor a polynomial because you have to really know your multiplication facts to do that. And I have personally found, working with, thousands of kids at this point, that the kids who struggle the most spend all their mental energy trying to figure out that 8 times 7 is 56. And by the time they finally figure that out, then they're facing this quadratic trinomial that they have to factor. That's the algebra part. And they got nothing left in the tank, no mental energy or calories left. I don't know. And then they start failing. And so we want to get you to a point where they can recall, they have the tools available to be able to tackle what they're going to need to tackle at the middle and high school levels. This is a great option. And obviously, I'm excited about it. Okay. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that'd be
So anyway,
exciting if principals or teachers would reach out to their schools and
please.
work with you. And also you're hands-on, kinesthetic is how you let the kids learn, and they love working with their laptops and
Cell phones even work.
And so you do it on Zoom as well as one-on-one?
So yeah, particularly this challenge is different than my other packages, but this is actually all pre-recorded. They don't need Zoom. They get an email sent to them on day one with a video that they watch and what the resources are, and the assignments are all in the email, right? And day two, they get another email, that daily video with what they're going to do, and it comes out timed. As soon as they click get it now, the clock starts. And
this could happen, right? This could happen today and get kids through summer school. If you have a summer school break, you can pick it up when you get back from your break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's awesome. Right. And so we're excited to let people know about it. One of the things you did mention that I don't think I have on this page, but if you go to services on my website, I think I have it listed here. If I don't, then I'm mad at myself. There it is. This is just what you're saying as far as the financial course. So this is specifically for teens. My heart is, man, teenagers really need to be taught some basics about financial literacy. And it's just not put in the curriculum. I think that's intentional, to be honest with you. Not to sound conspiratorial, but I just know a lot of times big money corporations finance education, and they may or may not want competition for their businesses. And so I think it's purposeful that a lot of times you don't have personal finance prioritized in education. That to me is just wrong. I don't think God likes it.
I agree.
I know I don't like it. And so we call it the Money Made Simple, based on kind of our theme: Algebra Made Simple, Math Made Simple. The Money Made Simple Personal Finance 8-week course for teens. They're going to learn about worth and value. They're going to learn about why things cost what they cost. They're going to learn about ideas on how you can enhance how much someone is willing to pay for something. If you can be smart about how you market it, how you talk about the intrinsic motivation that someone has toward a product. They're also going to learn practical stuff about budgeting and percents and, you name it, IRAs. They're going to go through a lot. And so that's I'm really excited about this product as well. So anyway, these are just some of the things that you can, you can sign your kid up for through our website. I know I'm going long, so I just want to share this last thing. If you want to hear more about me or my story, on Amazon is the best place right now to reach my book. This is my book that I had the honor to put together, and it's called Class Act: Changing the Educational Landscape Through Love. And it took us a while to come up with that name. In fact, that was the last thing we came up with. I wrote the story, poured my heart into it, edited it. It took me about 2 years. And finally, I figured out the name with the help of my sister and a close friend of mine. But it tells the raw story about the Morrisey Awards, right? And what I went through, and Johnson, and many more things that happened that I didn't get a chance to share.
Wouldn't that be a great new teacher book?
Oh, yeah.
Buy that for their teachers.
That's what I'm saying. If you don't want to buy it and you're not interested, first off, shame on you. I'm just joking. I'm joking. Okay. But I'm telling you, you probably have a friend or a relative that's a teacher. This can be a lifeline for them. Just getting your mindset positive and how and equipped that you can make an influence. It can keep people in the profession. I had a close colleague of mine who was about to quit. Flat out was about to quit, just like I felt like I wanted to quit after 3 years. And then this not only made me not want to quit, made me love the job that I thought I hated, and then made me almost like a leader in it. And I didn't have to do a bunch of other tasks that the other teachers had to do, frankly. I mean, the Bible says diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. And so God got me passionate, got me diligent. And then I started kind of ruling, like making some of the changes at my job before stepping out to run a business. And so I was telling her about my Morrisey Awards, and without her even mentioning it, she took it on herself. She goes, that makes sense. I'm at my wit's end. What I'm doing is not working. I feel like I'm about to quit. The kids hate it. So her last name was Carr. I think I can share that. Her last name was Carr, so she called hers the Oscars. So we're going to do the Oscars, and there was like double R at the end. It was clever. And I was like, man, I like yours better than mine. And she put all these extra graphics on her award that, frankly, like I said, look, I told you I was doing Microsoft Word. Yeah. It looked awesome. And she goes, Christy, what do you think of this? She emailed it to me. Didn't have a clue. And I went, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. She's like, what? I'm like, what do I think of that? Run with it, girl. And she had the same thing happen. She started loving the kids. The kids ate it up. We would get together and be like, I'm thinking about doing this. How about this? So let's change the embed it. So we put like like all these graphics in it. And she helped me do what I was doing at a better quality level. And we could bounce ideas off each other. And she's been going like 10 years strong now, when she was about to quit 10 years ago. And
That's amazing.
I should bring her on. I mean, it was awesome to watch.
Video too. You know,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I know our audience has got a lot of help. I want to thank you, Chris. I'm going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And I want to definitely just share one thing about how I'm using music to help kids read. You can find this book on Amazon, and I'm going to get it on shirts and on cups. If you want to be a sponsor to our nonprofit, Step by Step Dyslexia Solutions, these are the genius minds of dyslexic people. We have Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, Walt Disney, just a few. But imagine if some of those kids in Chris's class that weren't attentive, maybe they weren't diagnosed with dyslexia, but look what happens if kids aren't reading and engaging in their class studies. They go into gangs and crime, and some don't graduate from high school. It's a whole other story how many kids we pass who really haven't earned to be promoted. That's a whole other story. But look at my website and see what I can offer to help kids reading. And please go to Chris's website and see how your child can get help for math right now in this summer and the next school year. So thanks again. And I want to thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure to have you. And may God bless you all. Okay, bye-bye.